right, today we are talking about, are your super high standards in dating actually because you're picky and want really specific things? Or is it really a defense mechanism? Or maybe even a misunderstanding or misrepresentation of what you truly want deep down? And if you're new to the channel, hi, I'm Emily. I coach men and women on matters of emotional health, and I also help women with understanding and returning to their authentic feminine nature. My philosophy when it comes to dating standards is usually this: you can have your standards as high as you want as long as you can match them. Right? It's pretty hypocritical for us to expect something from someone else that we're not willing to do ourselves. And if we don't yet embody the standards that we really want in another person, that's okay. It just means that that's an area where we get to grow. That's a thing we get to work on. But where do we get to the point that our standards are too high or unreasonable or picky in a way that actually isn't serving us? So today I'm going to talk about 3 ways that your standards either maybe aren't actually getting you what you want and might even be hindering you, or they're even a misrepresentation of what you truly want deep down. So the first one would be where your type or where a certain quality to you actually means that you're getting a certain need met or having a certain experience. So I'm going to share an example about this one. I used to have a very specific type where I only wanted to date men who were Hispanic because after dating a couple different guys who were Hispanic, I realized that it was an experience that I really liked. I really liked how I felt. So the belief came about that I needed to be with a guy who was Hispanic in order to feel adored, in order to feel pursued, and in order to have someone who had common interests with me and wanted to go do all these things that I really enjoyed. And then everything changed with the next Hispanic guy that I dated. In a lot of ways, he checked every box for me. He was Hispanic, he was tall, and he was handsome. We had really similar values, really similar views, and I just convinced myself, all right, it's this person. It has to be this person. On paper, this is literally everything that I wanted or thought I wanted. And then as we started dating, I began to realize that, I actually don't really feel super adored by this person. He actually doesn't really want to speak Spanish with me. Sometimes he even felt a little bit insecure about his Spanish ability, so he didn't really want to speak Spanish with me. I wanted to take him out to salsa dancing and Latin dancing. He wasn't into that either. In fact, he had memories of being at the quinceañeras when he was, a kid, and how he would leave to avoid the dancing and go play with the rocks in the parking lot. So through dating him, I realized that even though I had everything I thought I wanted and needed to be happy and fulfilled in a relationship, I realized that the things I wanted weren't actually the surface level things that I thought I wanted. Underneath those standards were the desire to feel adored, to feel pursued, for someone to take interest in the things that I was interested in, and to go do those things, go explore things with me, go experience a different, interesting culture with me. That relationship eventually did end. That was a good thing because clearly I couldn't get what I wanted, and he probably couldn't get what he wanted in the relationship either. And I remember the coach that I was working with at that time said to me, Emily, is there any reason why you couldn't date a white guy or an Italian guy who also just really pursues you and loves to salsa dance and loves the culture and wants to go do the things that you want to do, or is at least open to them? Is there any reason why that couldn't work? And then it kind of clicked that I had put myself in this box that was preventing me from being open to people who could actually meet the needs that I really had in a relationship. It was also a really freeing realization because I did have this super specific type, and that felt really discouraging. Like, oh my gosh, it's so hard to find people who specifically fit all these things that I want. So be mindful where your standards could actually be hindering you from getting what you want. And not only that, but where there actually is something deeper. There is a need met. So I chose guys who were Hispanic because a lot of times in Hispanic culture, there is a stronger presence of masculinity. Not all of it's healthy, but overall, Hispanic culture does tend to be, at least the men tend to be a lot more masculine. And so I really needed to be with someone who was masculine so that they would pursue. That was really the need and the desire of my heart in that situation, and just in general. And it's really common that most women actually do want to feel pursued. They do want to feel chased after. They want to feel cherished, and they want to feel adored. So I didn't need someone who was specifically from a certain culture. I just needed someone who was masculine. Another common standard or preference that can actually be limiting us, especially as women, is when we think that we need to be with a guy who is taller than us. And I can't lie, that is my preference too. But it's important to unpack what is actually the need we're trying to get met by being with someone who is taller than us. And as women, especially if we really have connected to and embraced our feminine side that really wants to be pursued, that wants to be protected, we often really have a desire to be with someone that we feel safe with, that we feel protected by, and being taller than us might represent that for us. So in a similar way, let's say you do go out with someone who's like 6 foot and you're expecting, yes, I'm gonna feel so safe and protected when I'm with this person. Well, it turns out he doesn't know how to protect you in any sort of way or protect himself. He's very timid. And when you are in a situation where you feel threatened, you actually have to be the one who stands up for the two of you. So maybe it's not even that he doesn't have the physical strength. He might just not have a backbone. And then you're not going to feel very safe with him, even though he's much taller than you. And by the way, guys, if you are timid, that is not to rag on you or to judge you or criticize you, but it is an invitation for you to look at, where are you lacking confidence? Where are areas that you can grow? Because really the heart of the masculine is to protect, is to provide in certain ways, and that doesn't just have to be monetary. So if that's something that you feel resistance to, that's just an invitation to look inward of, why do I feel weird about this? Or why does this feel hard for me? Or is there some emotional healing that I can do to feel more confident in myself and feel more capable? Okay, so going back to that whole going on a date with someone who's much taller than you, but then it turns out that they're not someone who really you feel safe and potentially protected with. Alternatively, you could go on a date with someone who is like a few inches shorter than you or an inch shorter than you, who maybe he is into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or maybe he just has a backbone. Maybe if there is a conflict, he can handle the situation, he can diffuse the situation, or he's willing to protect you if that actually comes up. That's going to be a totally different experience for you with that man versus the first man. So sometimes, again, we pick this standard, this super specific standard, thinking it'll meet a need. And then when it doesn't, we end up feeling confused. We end up feeling unfulfilled. And a lot of times we end up feeling resentful towards that person for not actually meeting the need that we wanted them to meet. And we might not even realize it. So all of this to say that preferences are totally okay. You can like certain things over another thing. We have that with food too. Of course, we're going to have it with people. We have different qualities that we're really drawn to, certain physical attributes that we're drawn to. That is okay. That is part of who we are, right? It's our personality. But the thing to just be aware of is, when am I choosing something because I actually think it's going to meet a certain need for me? Because if we can understand and unpack what the need is that we actually want, that's going to save us from a lot of resentment in relationships when we can't figure out, why am I upset? What was I expecting to get from this that now I can't get? And also, where can we kind of broaden our range of people that we might be interested in? Where can we be less picky? Because the pickiness was actually coming from the desire to get a need met. And that standard just represented getting that need met for us. Okay, and another way that your maybe a really specific standard could actually be trying to meet something else for you is when it comes to values. So, for example, maybe you think that you need to be with someone who has a six pack, or someone who goes to the gym 6 days a week, or etc. Fill in the blank. And so maybe making that standard mean that you have a shared value of health. That might be what's happening. When really, what all does health as a standard include, or health as a value include? Health as a value could be like, does this person eat healthy? Do they care about the things going into their food? Are they practicing their, keeping stress levels low? Do they have good, tools to help them with that? How is their emotional health, right? There's so many facets of a health value that picking someone with a specific quality might not actually mean that they share that value. I don't know how many people you know who are, majorly into the gym, but I remember especially like being in high school and in college that there were a lot of guys who were really into working out, but they knew nothing about actually being healthy. And so I might have thought if I am with someone who is super fit, we'll share the value of health. But then it turned out that I would have to fight them over us going to healthy places to eat or cooking food rather than going to get fast food all the time. So we didn't even share that value at all. So that's another one to be aware of. Where are we making a characteristic or a standard mean that they have the same value as us? And finally, I want to talk about how sometimes our standards are actually a defense mechanism. Sometimes we create this super long list or this super high standard that basically no one could actually meet except a very small percentage of people, like an unreasonably picky or unreasonably specific standard. And what this is actually doing sometimes is it's preventing us from having to be open to people. It's preventing us from having to open ourselves up to potentially getting hurt, to potentially being rejected, to someone potentially walking into our life. And then as soon as we let our guard down, they just walk right out. That fear that, we are worth abandoning. So sometimes we have this super high standard so that can't even happen, so that people can't get close to us. And so again, this becomes something that really holds us back in dating. It really holds us back from finding and creating the kinds of relationships that we actually do want. We're running away from what we don't want rather than chasing after what we do want. So if you find yourself in this situation, I would say don't be shaming yourself. Don't judge yourself. Just be honest with yourself about, this is where I am. I think I am being really specific with this because I'm actually a little bit afraid of getting hurt again. I'm afraid of opening myself up. That's okay. That's okay if that is the place that you're in. You just want to start to be curious about that, because maybe there are things that you took away from previous relationships or previous breakups, and maybe you made some meanings about them that aren't actually true. I had a lot of really short-lived dating experiences where just as I was letting my guard down and starting to think, okay, this might actually last, we might actually, date for a while, or maybe this could even be my person, repeatedly these guys would leave. They would just ghost after we dated for a month or been talking for a couple months, or even someone that I dated for a few months. So my story became that guys leave, or that people leave. Whenever we start to become more emotionally open and emotionally vulnerable with each other, they're gonna leave. I also made this story that guys are just emotionally unavailable. That's just the way it is. I don't know why I'm dating so many of them all the time. Maybe this is just how guys are. What I didn't know then was that taking those stories and making them my truth made starting new relationships extremely anxiety inducing, extremely scary, and something that I really just avoided. And then finally, when I did enter a solid relationship, I was so scared. I was like, I've seen this happen before. I know how this ends. And unfortunately, when we take away the wrong meanings or the wrong lessons, when we learn the wrong lessons from some of our dating experiences or even friendship experiences, it can really hold us back and it can be really damaging. So this is where you do want to start being curious about yourself, curious about, what am I making this mean? Am I making this mean that if I let someone get close to me, they're just going to run? If I let someone get close to me, that they're going to reject me? If I let someone get close to me, that they are going to see all the reasons that I am unlovable or unwantable or unworthy of their love, of being with them, are they going to see all those things and then reject me for those exact things? Allow yourself to be honest in a non-judgmental way. Just, what is my heart feeling? What am I believing about myself in relation to dating, in relation to these different situations? What am I making this mean about my value as a person? And from there, starting to challenge that narrative. Is this actually true, or could there have been something else? And this is even a great place that if you're really stuck in this, work with a coach. You could work with a therapist, work with someone who really has worked through these things themselves, who can take you on a similar journey. Okay, so to sum up, if you find yourself falling into any of these categories where you're like, I have these super specific, super high standards, and I don't think that they're really serving me, questions to ask yourself are, what need am I trying to get met by having this standard? What value do I think we share if this person has this quality? And what stories am I believing about myself, about relationships, about men, that are making dating feel really scary, really high stakes? Am I afraid of being rejected? Why? Why might that be? What am I afraid of someone seeing? What do I think might make me too much or not enough or unlovable or worth rejecting? And is that actually true? What stories am I telling myself that could perhaps have a different meaning or perhaps be viewed in a different way? All right, if you liked this video, if you found it was helpful, please like and subscribe, and come find me on all the social media platforms. If you are a man or a woman who wants more emotional freedom, you want to start an inner healing journey because you're tired of being afraid of rejection, afraid of being abandoned, you're tired of not feeling confident, and you're tired of your relationships and friendships not feeling as fulfilling as they could, then apply for one-on-one coaching with me or send me a message if you want to chat.